Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about marijuana, cannabis, herb, ganja, weed, pot, whatever name you want to give it. We like to go with wacky tobacco. We have an article here from the New York Times, along with an article from Daily News, in which both are about marijuana legalization as well as the health benefits/risks. The first article that we're going to be talking about is the New York Times, the UN reclassifying cannabis as a less dangerous drug. You heard that right, folks. We come to terms with marijuana legalization. Not only are other countries getting involved into this business, but they're also going ahead and making it to where we're being told the truth, that it's not quite as bad as what they have previously listed it as. But we read on to the article. A United Nations Commission voted on Wednesday to remove cannabis for medical purposes from a category of the world's most dangerous drugs, a highly anticipated and long-delayed decision that could clear the way for an expansion of marijuana research and medical use. The vote by the Commission for Narcotic Drugs, which is based in Vienna and includes 53 major states, 53 member states, considered a series of recommendations from the World Health Organization on reclassifying cannabis and its derivatives, but attention centered on a key recommendation to remove cannabis from Schedule 4 of the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, where it was listed alongside dangerous and highly addictive opioids like heroin. And we're going to stop there. We don't like anything that the World Health Organization is involved in, and usually they have, these cockamamie things, and their handling or mishandling of the COVID-19 is generally what we're talking about here. They needed to be defunded by Trump entirely anyway. Their job was done tremendously bad over and over. If you look at their statistics on keeping things down and helping out, they really haven't done a lot. But here we see marijuana legalization. What do you think of that? This is actually not only legalization, but they're lowering the actual strength of the narcotic level. They had this classified with heroin and meth, and that's kind of a misnomer. Really, it's no much more stronger than a cigarette. As we read on to the article, a paragraph here just sticks out. The vote was a, quote, big step forward recognizing the positive impact of cannabis on patients. A vice president at Canopy Growth, a Canadian cannabis company. Quote, we hope this will empower more countries to create frameworks which will allow patients in need to get access to treatment. And we've seen for ourselves that there have been many people in our lives that just a little bit of that has helped them tremendously, whether it's something like anxiety or having problems eating or even keeping the food down. And we happen to believe it helps a lot with just stress in general. To make something like that illegal and to make it to where it's scheduled as a class 4 drug, it's pretty rough to put it in the same classification as heroin or meth. We actually agree with them. We don't think it's that scary and that horrible, and it's not that bad on your body comparison to cigarettes, tobacco in general, or alcohol, or other things that are out there. There are a lot of other things out there that are much worse than marijuana. The other article we wanted to read to you today was from the Daily News. In a historic vote, marijuana legalization bill had just been passed in the U.S. House today. A bill to decriminalize marijuana passed a Chamber of Congress for the first time ever Friday, as Democrats and a handful of Republicans embraced the growing popularity of legal weed and sought to correct the racial disparities inflicted on the war on drugs. And they used it as a methodology at one time to probably go after blacks, the actual racists within the police forces. Because again, everybody likes to throw this ideology out there that all of the politicians back then were racist, that all of the police forces were racist. And the fact of the matter is, we've always had usurpers and people that would bend the rules just so they could do their racist things. And that goes in pretty much all business, all emergency workers. Everybody can take that time out of their day to be that racist, hateful person. But we read on. The Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or MORE Act, would remove pot from the federal list of controlled substances, expunge low-level marijuana arrest, and set up a 5% sales tax to reinvest in communities disproportionately affected by drug enforcement, among other steps. Now, we have to say, if this is all that they have going on here, where it's a 5% sales tax, depending on how much they add on top of that, it's actually pretty lenient comparison to what California has. We've actually heard rumors that they tax up to 30 to 40% on their product. It's an outlandish overpricing so that somebody can make bank. But we would like to remind everybody, you're basically giving criminals 5% of your money here. It's still getting given to gangbangers. It's still getting given to probably the same people. They're talking about giving it back to communities that are disproportionately affected by drug enforcement. Now, how do you classify that? These cities where, marijuana is very in the now and all these other drugs aren't, so we're going to actually police that and give them money so they can police themselves and all these social endeavors. But what if it's someplace where it is meth induced? What if it's someplace that there's a lot of crack cocaine? Do we go ahead and give them money so that, they're disproportionately affected by drug enforcement? That doesn't even make any sense. These people cause that place to be that bad and that rough to begin with. Now, we want everybody to keep in mind, this doesn't actually pass marijuana at the federal level. This only means that Congress actually put it up for bids and it passed. What that now means is it has to go to the Senate. And I would caution everybody to warn themselves to not get too hyped, because we just watched Congress and how the reps voted in this vote. All they had was Florida Rep Matt Gaetz. And he came out and argued that the war on drugs has proven to be a failure, that it's done more harm, especially to minorities, than any federal law that dozens of states have decriminalized pot. So it makes sense what he's saying here. How are you going to throw one person in jail for 5 years because they're not on one state line or the other? It doesn't seem really fair when you think about it that way. You could be 5 feet on some state line and you could be arrested and you get 5 years in one state, whereas the other state you would be walking away free. Everybody here wants to turn it into a racial issue, and although maybe some of it is, we caution everybody to believe that malarkey, because here's the thing. This is everybody's deal. There's a lot of people out there that, regardless of race, and we happen to think that this brings the races together, but we caution everyone here because this is politics at work. We're seeing politics. And we wonder, why wasn't this ever done in Trump's administration? He gave each state the right to vote on this if they wanted to, and now all of a sudden it's getting done. Why is that? Did they not want to throw him a bone this whole entire time, that he could say that this was part of his deal? Now all of a sudden they can pass things like this and everybody can benefit, right? But what do you think? Do you think that it is a good idea to legalize marijuana across the United States? We don't think the Republicans are actually going to go for it. We think this is going to get shut down, and we have the highest hopes for it because as business people ourselves, we look at something and go, well, that right there has potential. And the marijuana industry and the CBD industry has a lot of potential. The edibles in that area have a serious amount of potential. There's a lot of places that don't allow people to smoke at all in general, and a lot of marijuana is very quote-unquote loud. It smells everywhere. So edibles have a huge advantage where just regular marijuana doesn't. You may not have enough time to go around the corner and smoke a J. Fact of the matter is having an edible would be nice on hand. There are a lot of people out there that suffer from multiple different kind of medicines, and we can tell you firsthand ourselves that many of the drugs prescribed or given to you make you feel out of body. They don't feel too good. You don't feel yourself, and somewhat of your judgment is impaired. And in many cases, most people find that marijuana helps them out tremendously with pain, and it alleviates a lot of the after effects. There's not this harsh chemical after effect where you're lethargic and apathetic to everything and you're hardly even able to get up. Marijuana does not do those type of things to a body. But we caution all Republicans out there, get behind this. There's no point in trying not to. As a matter of fact, if you want to ever have a future with young voters, you must pass this legislation. You must cross the aisle. This is the first and only time we're ever going to tell you that Republicans should cross the aisle with Democrats and shake hands on one topic. Quite frank, we detest the Democrats. But for the American people, we actually agree that this is a good business endeavor. We think this is very good for the average American. This is going to put a little bit of money in their pocket. It's kind of the same thing that we had here in Florida. A long time ago, we only had orange groves. That was our big sale. And we had farms, mostly dairy. Now our big sale is tourism, and that was where the big bucks were. We were able to garner so much money for ourselves that we have no state income tax. So we have professional athletes wanting to come here because when they pick up a check, they're not paying that extra. And we look at marijuana as a bonus. You're adding millions, if not billions, to our federal budget in general in taxation. Even if you were to go after like just 5% of it all in total in every state, that is a lot of money to throw towards any Democrat effort because obviously they're not going to let us vote Republican. Republicans have to get in line at some point with the young people of America. You have to change your ideologies on some things. It's okay to uphold these things to be true as far as the Constitution. But if you are really a Republican, if you're really conservative, or even if you're just a constitutionalist, if you're going by those things, then you should be for it too. Because the fact of the matter is, most of us conservatives are up for business. Most of us Republicans, we really do love the idea of entrepreneurship. And all of these things correlate with one major thing. God did not put that drug, that chemical, that weed on earth to destroy you. It's part of God's earth. There's hardly any manipulation involved. You make a bud, you smoke a bud. It's very simple in that regard. It's one of the few things that we can agree on. But Republicans, I can promise you, if you fight this, it's going to bite you in the butt with all of the possible young voters. The Republicans say that the Democrats are soft on crime. We would argue that this isn't actually crime. This is people practicing their freedoms. The war on drugs does not work. Prohibition does not work. Dry counties don't work. I mean, how many times have you went to a dry county and you wanted to party with your friends and they just looked at you like, man, it's a dry county. Good luck trying to get alcohol. You might have to go to the next county over. Stuff like that is absolutely redundant and ridiculous that we have to go through it. If it were crack, meth, heroin, any of those really honest-to-God bad drugs, we would say no way. But marijuana's been around for a long time. It's one of the more natural substances out there for anyone to be taking into their body. It's not as harmful to the body overall in long term. We would like to think that it's a good thing that people come out and fight the government on these type of things. It's one of the very few things in a quote-unquote democratic ideology that we can agree with. But again, this is just more of them trying to get the young vote. And the Republicans have to get on board. They have to start understanding that today's people aren't yesterday's. And yesterday's people ain't going to be there in the future. So as Republicans, if you don't start getting off your butts and creating a methodology to get young people to come vote for you, as a group, as the Republican group, you will crumble. You have to replenish the population bucket every once in a while. It's time to restock the pond. Anyway, you folks have a good night, a good morning, a good evening, whichever. Please like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate that around here. Also, drop a comment down below. We like to talk with you. We like to pick your brain. And if you have any ideas for new videos, go ahead and type some words below. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you don't hit the notification bell, you might not get to see our videos. God bless each and every one of you. See ya.